Hi friends, Erin Booher here, educator for John Paul Mitchell Systems, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of balayage today, and I wanted to bring you along with me to see what we do. We're brightening things up. We're going to do a nice bold money piece as well as toning with the Demi in the new Pearl series, so you're not going to want to miss it. So keep watching, and let's go do some hair. Kicking things off with my beautiful friend and fellow stylist Brittany. We like to keep things low maintenance, so we're going to brighten her up, bring things up so she can just let it be for a while. We'll be using Paul Mitchell's dual purpose lightener and 20 volume cream developer for the whole deal today. And you can see here with my sectioning, I have one large section in the back, 4 in the front. And on the hairline sections, I did put a curve in that, so it kind of tucks itself behind that middle section. So we don't get a big blocky feel with the hairline, that money piece, but it's gonna veil over the top of it, leaving it nice and natural looking and with an easy grow out. So starting off in the back, you can see my section comes to a point, makes a little triangle. I'll be working on either side of that point as I work up the head, just so everything stays nice and balanced and even. This first section, you can see I took a nice big chunky weave. Then we went ahead and back combed that up, and we're gonna adhere it to the foil to make sure it's nice and saturated, and we're going to mirror that on the other side. So here, working up the head, we're going to be continuing with those diagonal back sections. I'm taking about 1 inch to 1.5 inch section out on each side of that little triangle point. And then this time we'll actually just be skimming off a piece. So it's going to be more of a slice balayage instead of that big chunky weave. So we're going to be alternating between weaves and slices today. Still continuing with that back comb method prior to applying our product. You can see that I like to apply that product heavily about in the middle of my section, and kind of fan it up and make sure that I have a good tension on the ends before pulling it through the ends if she needs it pulled through the ends. She does have a lot of highlights already living at those ends that we want to keep nice and safe. They're already nice and bright, so we don't want to overlap them and over process them. So working on up, our last section was a slice. This one's going to be a weave. So I took a little bit of a finer weave today, just to mix up the dimension a little bit and make it extra blendy. And you can see the pieces that I left out, I kind of pulled to the side, and we're going to do that consistently as we work through the head. And when we come back around after we've applied our full foliage, balayage, we will tip out those ends outside of foils. They're already nice and bright, so we're going to keep them safe by doing them last and keeping them out of a foil. So skipping ahead to that last little triangle nugget up at towards the crown of the head, I'm actually going to just slice off that point, and we're gonna just leave it out. That's gonna be one of our little tip outs, and that's gonna leave some nice depth right at the crown. So you'll have these nice ribbons of blonde laying over that depth, and that's what's gonna give you those ribbony, beautiful pieces of dimension that we kind of wanna see. So this last little bit I'm going to split in half. They're each going to be a weave, just back to back. Again, we're back combing everything that we're applying, and that's going to give us that nice ribbony dimension to live over that depth. So after we finish with that back section, we're going to move up directly to the hairline. I'm kind of splitting that in half, just right at the recession line. It's going to give me a little bit more control. Taking a slice directly off of her hairline. So I'm mimicking that shape that her hairline naturally makes. And then we're going to do a weave, just a tiny little weave, and then apply our product all the way up to the scalp. So some of these pieces we're going to be back combing. The further away from the hairline on this section that we're working, the more diffused we want it. That way it kind of lays over. We get the brightness right by the face, but we don't get that kind of blocky, chunky look with the money piece. So the next piece I'm taking is going to just be a slice. We're not weaving this one. Taking a really fine slice and applying our product. That's going to keep it nice and bright, but that weave right in front of it is going to diffuse it out as she wears her hair back. So again, just like in the back, we're alternating techniques. So last one was a slice. This one's going to be a weave again, and I am just barely back combing it, just slightly. So it's still nice and bright. It comes up nice and far, but it's a little bit softer of a grow out and blend. So time for another slice, and this time I am back combing that as well, just slightly and towards the back of our panel. So what that's going to do is keep her nice and bright by the face, and everything as it kind of moves away from the face is going to be slightly more diffused, and it's just going to look a little bit more natural, and again, a great grow out. Moving to the top half of our hairline section, we're going to do the same thing. So I'm mimicking her hairline, starting with a really nice little fine weave and going to be alternating from there. And again, as we're moving back and away from the face, we're going to be blending it more using the back comb technique, and that's going to give us that nice soft appearance. Finished with that first half, I went ahead and finished the second half of that hairline, and we are moving into that center section. I'm going to take again, horizontal diagonal back is how we're working with this to keep it nice and natural. About halfway up that section, and I know it comes to a point, so there's not going to be a lot left below it. I'm going to take my slice and start back combing. Again, we'll be alternating sections, and this first one is going to be a slice. So you can see as I'm getting to the top, since we are working on a diagonal, this section is going to become smaller and smaller into that little triangle shape. So I want to be very aware here. So I'm going to skim off my slice, and notice when I lay that down, there's still a little bit of dark in between our face framing foils and the slice that I'm about to highlight. And that's going to be super important to have that dark right behind our face framing piece if you really want it to pop. It's all about the contrast. You can't have those bright brights without those darker pieces kind of highlighting them. last section is going to be a weave, and we're going to backcomb that plenty because we don't want that to come up too far. We want it to be nice and diffused that lays over the top of everything else, and we don't want it to be competing with that face framing highlight. We want it to be all it makes sense as it goes from the face being the brightest, kind of working its way softly back. All right, I went ahead and finished up that other side. We're gonna go ahead and move on to our tip outs now so that everything at the ends are nice and bright. Everything that we kept out of the foils, we're going to take kind of big sections. We're gonna just kind of roughly backcomb them, not super close to the scalp. We don't really need to do that. And then just brighten up those ends with our dual purpose lightener. Again, they've already been lightened and they're going on last. So they're not going to be processing for as long as everything in the foils. So leaving them out of the foils and letting them process a little less is going to keep them nice and safe while still brightening them up. All right, so as we finish that up, we're gonna let Brittany process until she is a nice level 10 blonde, and then we're gonna wash her out and move on to the toning process. I'm gonna be working with the Demi in the Pearl series. 9P is going to be our first formula for the back here, and then 10P is going to be our second formula for that money piece. We're gonna keep her nice and bright in the front with that 10P and tone everything else with the 9P. Still super bright, but there's gonna be some contrast there. So toning on damp hair today, I do love using the Demi for toning or for anything really. It's so easy to saturate every last bit. And as you can see, I'm kind of putting everything into these twists. What that's doing is just keeping everything nice and tidy, and it looks cool. All right, moving on up to Formula 2 in that front hairline. 10P in the Demi, we're going to apply that, fully saturate it, and section it away from her face so it's nice and clean and out of the way. All right, now that we've got that toner applied, we're gonna let that Demi sit for the full 20 minutes, and there we go. There's our result. Nice and bright in the front, super low maintenance color, still super bright, beautiful ribbons in the back, and a seamless grow out for Brittany. Y'all, I can already tell I'll be using the Pearl series on a lot of my blondes. I am obsessed with the outcome. Absolutely beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Let me know if you tried it. My name's Erin Booher. Find me on Instagram and tag me in your posts, and I hope you have a beautiful day.